Welcome. The worldwide health crisis has given rise to new levels of economic upheavals. No one can predict with certainty what the future of manufacturing will look like, but business as usual does not appear likely. In the meantime, pharmaceutical and biotech companies are either scrambling to increase agility while navigating unorthodox working conditions and disrupted supply chains, or accelerating drug development, mainly in clinical trials, and preparing themselves for massive production of vaccines and new medicines, always under stringent regulations. The continued human health and safety of workers emerges as a bigger than ever priority. Other important issues also need to be addressed to accommodate what will become the new normal. The new future that is already here, accelerated by the circumstances, by the new generations already in the labour market, and by market expectations for product quality and sustainability. Will your organisation be flexible enough to adapt to the rapid marketplace changes? What needs to be reinvented? My name is Vicki Pearson. I am the Global Solution Architect for Consumer Packaged Goods at Schneider Electric, specialising in solutions for our life science customers. We believe that rethinking industries and reaching the next generation requires bold moves, step changes, not tentative steps. Why? Because reaching the true potential of the fourth industrial revolution is more than digital, more than IIoT. It's a holistic transformation for the companies to achieve the next generation of efficiency, resiliency, and sustainability. And it's focused on real people. Let us try to crack digital as the accelerator to enable the next generation industries. For this purpose, I'm glad to present Gareth Alford, Technology Translation Lead Engineer in the Clinical Supply Chain. Gareth is committed to support the long-term vision for integrating PCP into the future factory, working with external parties, including academic consortiums and industrial-sponsored partnerships to develop the next generation of processing facilities and equipments, and to meet the future needs for GSK clinical supply and manufacturing. I really appreciate you joining us to share your unique perspective. Welcome, Gareth.
Thank you for inviting me, Vicki.
So data is really key for accelerating both drug development and production now and the future vision of autonomous factories. How do you think that the technology can impact the management and analysis of all the data to really start to bring value?
We really have a mix of data that we use in our industry, a combination of real-time process variables as well as offline. At present, the majority of the data we collect is to provide end-of-process decision-making. This tends to be less time-critical, and as such, we've built the tools around this aspect. I believe as we move forward with the intensified manufacturing techniques, that a large amount of this data will need to be processed to support real-time needs. This will make us look to smarter ways to represent this data, to think about the human decision maker. This is something that we've been moving towards with continuous manufacturing platforms. In this case, with hundreds of continuous data points coming from the platform, we had to look at ways of representing the data that moved away from traditional trending packages that we would normally use. Initial examples including using multivariate analysis tools and associated visualizations to try and represent a normal operating environment, and then being able to look to drill down through these when the operator actually has seen any differences on there, and to try and understand the specific factors which are causing those changes. Ultimately though, when we start looking at autonomous factories coming online, the decision will be the output of process models and the digital twin. Now, this is going to take time to get to, as we have to build up the experience to do this. Combining statistical and mechanistic models to fully define the process with a defined operating environment is something that we've just got to gain experience with. For some processes, especially those of an integrated continuous nature, I believe that this will lead to more model predictive control opportunities.
So the processing and management of data is definitely one of the keys to driving towards self-governing environments. The ability to manage real-time data fusion from multiple environments and turn that into actionable information for decision-making. The adoption of automation and technology has enabled digitization in Schneider Electric's own factories. Gareth, with the advancement of these new technologies such as AR and VR, do you see this empowering the operators of the future and changing the landscape of how facilities and processes will be impacted?
I do, Vicki, yes. We've been looking at working with these tools for a number of years, and we've seen both the technology and the use case developed during that time. Our industry is still very labour intensive, and this has meant that we've had to create mechanisms to ensure compliance associated with that operator, such as standard operating procedures and batch records to link the compliant human activities to the process data. I can see VR and AR as great tools to start to look at changing this approach. We've got examples where we've used VR to support offline training activities where operators can demonstrate their learnings. We've then taken that interface and we've applied that then into areas such as VR, so there was a common extension of the experience that they've actually had in the VR environment. We've also been looking at using AR to direct and document interactions with the processes, linking the actions to the operator directly in the prescribed processing steps. Still, one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in this space is actually the content creation tools that sit alongside these platforms. This is one of the areas that we feel really needs to progress to ensure this platform can be as widely adopted as the traditional methods that we use.
The mix of virtual reality and augmented operator tools can bring many small incremental benefits. But could the industry be bolder, using AR to define the art of the possible? Would it be possible in the future to eliminate the use of the electronic batch record workflow? With the ever-growing requirement of more drug products in the world, do you see a requirement for flexible multi-product modular facilities or more localized dedicated plants?
That's a good question, Vicki. I think the key thing with regard to all this is that agility is the key topic in this ever-changing world in which we operate. If I think about the question and break it down, I don't think there is a single direction that we're looking to try and cover. At the end of the day, the true success of a modular approach is it is able to operate in both a centralized and a decentralized environments using the same basic principles. Now, this is something that we've been looking for quite some time. And again, looking at the opportunity for doing this actually in our early development of our infrastructure, as well as in some of the new therapeutic areas. We really want to try and make sure that the modular concept can support this. And such, we've been looking at making sure that the approach was as agnostic to its environment as possible. This means that we consider the traditional services as part of this approach and try and decouple the site-specific aspects to ensure that the process itself is fully controlled. The modular processing units that we've developed to support the digital asset concepts allow full parameterization of the platform, and this is key, really. This supports full equipment setup contextualization, which is important whether within a facility operating environment or within a distributed manufacturing concept. And this is down to the ability to sit within a non-supplier owned facility as well. So all aspects of how the machines operate, we can expose centrally, and this then allows us to see all the manufacturing parameters associated with making our medicines. Now, for a lot of the processes, these parameters may not change, but it still means that we're aware of what they are and we're able to be tracked. This allows us to start looking at creating a scale-out manufacturing opportunity, adapting to the demands requirements for extending running times, and ultimately, through this modularization, looking at the duplication of our manufacturing lines.
The evolution of the facility and production environment towards modular, scalable unit operations with quality of the product at the heart of these manufacturing steps will accelerate the industry's journey towards efficient, sustainable production closer to the point of care. So how can suppliers and cross-industry groups impact the regulators to meet the future challenges and acceleration of the industry?
Again, I think this is really important. I think we need to start to come together to paint the picture of the future state for the medicines delivery and start looking at some of the meaningful milestones along that journey. We rightly operate in a naturally conservative environment to ensure that the patient's well-being is at the heart of operations. And we need to work closely with our regulators to navigate to this future state and to embrace a much more agile mentality to do this. Now, a lot of the technologies that we've already been looking at today are already existing in other industries, and they've been established in those manufacturing sectors for a number of years. And as such, we need to acknowledge why our sector is slow to pick these up and ensure that we can start to create a culture of innovation in our platforms that deliver to the patient. You know, we've done this in some of our other areas like therapeutic discovery, so there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do this actually in the manufacturing environment. We have great collaborative platforms available to us as well. You know, this is something that we've been working on within the sector for some time. We've got examples such as the Pharma innovation programs in Singapore, the PIPS program, and we can use these to build visions of actually what we see as the sort of the future state and start thinking about some of these lighthouse projects. So one example that we've been working on recently with a number of collaborators is looking at what the future facility would need to support this type of vision statement that we have on the screen here.
As you say, many industries have already borne the benefits of adopting new technology, digital twins, real-time analytics, adoption of cloud, and technologies that can empower the workforce. Bridging between these differing industries can help minimize the adoption efforts for the pharma and biotech industries and eliminate the perceived issues with the technologies with lessons learned. Gareth, your final message to our audience?
Yeah, my final message really is one of acknowledging the common needs on this topic, especially in the medicines delivery sector. And so we can start to think about how we can actively work together to provide a clear future case with the associated asks from both a technology integration and specifically around the sort of the regulatory framework that we'll need here as well. I think if anything, you know, where we are now, doing this as a virtual conference, for example, you know, the current global pandemic has shown that we need to be much more agile in the way in which we react to these global needs for treatments, and also to ensure that the resilience is built into our whole supply chain. There are numerous point examples out there where people have been actually moving the dial within the pharma development and manufacturing environments in point cases, but we need to make sure these are built upon and they're not confined to the pilot purgatory. I really believe that with the right mindset, we can start to build upon the experiences in other sectors that are going through the fourth industrial revolution and provide a future-ready platform that delivers medicines to our patients.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Life sciences has a conservative approach to change due to the regulatory requirements. But with the volatility we are seeing, combined with new demands like a vaccine within 12 months rather than 5 to 10 years, it is obvious that digitization needs to accelerate in many areas across the value chain, and the crisis is acting as an accelerator to digitization. Accelerating new technology adoption and digitization can bring increased resilience to the supply chain, providing better visibility, enhanced anticipation, more flexibility and agility, which we require now and in the future. Our society is also changing, with the younger generation being more transient and comfortable in changing careers. The trade-off is between securing industry knowledge and the capability and use of technology. A collective effort between technology providers, the life sciences industry, and regulators can ensure efficient and sustainable drug delivery for patients everywhere. Thank you very much for your attendance. Many thanks to Gareth, and enjoy the rest of the conference.